Hello everybody and welcome to your video notes. I will be covering learning target 1.3, which is on conversions, in these video notes. And we'll be focusing on the cross multiply method. Things that you should know: how to multiply fractions. And so here's the wording for the learning target. The goal is that we can get to a point where you can calculate and convert rates in English units and metric units and vice versa using correct units. But this one we're just going to focus on how to use cross multiply. Okay, so the big idea with using a cross multiply, every single problem that you're going to have is going to have an equal sign and then two fractions. Okay, let's say I've got 4 here, 8 here, 3, and 6. You know, you could simplify these, make them a little bit nicer, but let's just use these numbers I just made up. Let's say this is 4 centimeters and this is 8 inches. Actually, one of these would be erased. Let's call this one X. You're always going to have something that you're looking for. It could be on the bottom, could be on the top. If these are equal, the units also have to be equal, so I could put centimeters there. And whenever we do a cross multiply problem, we're going to multiply the things that are across from each other. And you've seen this before. So you'd end up having 8 inches times 3 centimeters, and then that would equal 4 centimeters times X. And then once you have this, all that you have to do is we have to get X by itself, so we have to undo the multiplication by dividing by 4 centimeters, and we have to do that on both sides. And then once we have that, we can cross out these guys here, and we can actually cross out centimeters over here. So then what we're left with is X equals 8 times 3 divided by 4, which would be 6, and then the units that we would have would be inches. So that's your little refresher on cross multiplication. And now what I would like to do is use this as another example. So we have $28.50. We know that the exchange rate is this. And actually, these days it's closer to 18 pesos for every 1 USD. Okay? Now, I'm going to take my conversion factor, and I'm just going to start with that. Well, we know that we can actually start here. I'm going to take my conversion factor and write that here. So I've got my 18 pesos for every 1 US dollar. And we want to go from US dollars to pesos. Okay? We're given US dollars. We've got $28.50. I'm going to match that with my US dollars here because I've got this equal sign there. So I'm going to say 28.50 US dollars, and then I've got an X there because that's what I'm looking for. So just like what I had before, I'm going to multiply these things that are across from each other. So I've got my 1 US dollar times X equals 18 pesos times 28.50 US dollars. And then I'm going to take both sides. I'm trying to find X, so I'm going to divide by what is with X. So I've got my 1 US dollar. Cross both those out. I can cross out something here. That would be the US dollars. So I'm left with pesos. So I type that in my calculator and I get 513. And the units would be pesos. There you have it. Now, I'd like you to pause the video and try to do this next one on your own. Okay? Once you have done it, or you want to check your answer, go ahead and hit play. But what I'm going to do is I'm not going to show my work until I'm just going to do it all at once and then have my answer. All right, so here's what I got. I I'm going to use a highlighter. So I started with my conversion factor, and since this is equal to each other, I matched peso with peso, and I knew that I was going to be looking for US dollars. I multiply what's across from each other, so I get 18 times X right here, equals 1 US dollar times 56.75 pesos. Do my algebra. I divided both sides by 18 pesos. I crossed out pesos, and I was left with US dollars. 1 times 56.75 divided by 18 gives me my final answer right here. That's all I've got. Thanks for listening.